My name is Judy Leunes, capital L-E, capital U-N-E-S. I am a TDW member and have been for a long time. And I also serve on the Texas Democratic Party Congressional District 10. So what I like best about Progress Texas is I served on the SDC with Kathleen, and then I found her again in Progress Texas. I am also a donor of Progress Texas. So I really believe in what you all are doing, and I think Kathleen's wonderful.
It's Tuesday, April 7, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Progress Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions. Through our no paywall podcasts and digital media, we make Texas politics easy to understand and to participate in. Lies in Texas are well funded by the far right, but your support for fact-based reporting hands the mic to millions of Texans. Thanks so much to Richard Rodine, Kelly Craven Sharp, and Sandra Maddox for their ongoing sustaining support. Education at both the collegiate and K-12 levels more or less dominates the Daily Dispatch this Tuesday. We start with a completely bizarre scenario in which your public school tax dollars might not only be siphoned away to private schools, but to private education entities that aren't even in Texas. Elizabeth Sander at the Houston Chronicle writes that Florida-based NFC Academy, a virtual Christian school, has been approved to receive Texas taxpayer funds through the state's new $1 billion voucher program. While state law requires private schools to be physically located in Texas to prevent out-of-state siphoning of funds, NFC Academy utilized a loophole in the new law by registering as a vendor of educational products rather than a school, which means they're ineligible for the full $10,500 per student private school stipend, but that they can receive state money for online courses and tutoring. The Texas Comptroller's Office maintains that virtual providers must have a Texas office and at least one local employee, and it remains unclear if NFC Academy meets those criteria. Though it seems like a pretty low bar, they'd be able to easily figure out if the potential windfall was sufficient. Your tax dollars not only being pulled away from your neighborhood public school, but sent outside of the state altogether. Great work, Republicans. There's a big meeting today in Austin with the Texas State Board of Education, during which a lot of stuff is set to be discussed. Greta Diaz-Gonzalez-Vasquez at KUT in Austin says one primary agenda item today is a rewriting of K-12 social studies curricula for 5.5 million students across the state, shifting towards a chronological, Texas-centric framework that de-emphasizes world history. In an effort proponents characterize as aiming to foster a unified Texas identity, critics and, actual educators who are obviously and rightly alarmed at an attempt to distort history as maybe not such a great idea, warn that these new standards to promote Texas exceptionalism do so by erasing diverse perspectives and unpleasant historical truths. Out are details of Japanese internment camps in America during World War II. In are references to religion as part of historical instruction, with the framing of biblical characters as actual historical people, and an inappropriate and incorrect baseline idea that the U.S. was founded as a Christian nation. By the accepted historical record, it most definitely was not. Ricky Munoz at KPRC-TV in Houston says the topic of American slavery is significantly watered down in introductory lessons for younger kids, opting for more general terms like unfair treatment based on race, without going into the more difficult details regarding forced labor and violence. Any mention of or learning about global regions including Africa, Asia, and the Middle East are largely gone. This new curriculum essentially reframes the United States as the world for Texas students and places Texas at its cultural gravitational center. All of this is going to be rough on our teachers, who will be tasked with teaching material they know is propagandized and that many of them are not trained to teach, because it's pretty much bullshit. Texas school districts are generally already facing budget deficits, while the significant costs of retraining 320,000 teachers to shift to this garbage material and also money to buy the new textbooks it demands remain unaddressed. Quality of education in Texas is about to suffer greatly under unrealistic, partisan-driven requirements. Observers of all this have noticed that many of the board-appointed advisors who came up with this plan themselves lack K-12 teaching experience. Bethany Blankley at the Center Square runs down the board members themselves and finds that few of them have classroom experience either. See that member-by-member SBOE breakdown in the show notes this morning. Expect fireworks at this meeting today. The Texas State Board of Education convenes at 8 a.m. in the Barbara Jordan Building in Austin to discuss all of this GOP legislature-mandated modification to what your kids and grandkids will be taught about the world they live in and their place in it if they attend school in Texas. Oral testimony is limited to 2 minutes per person, and a capacity crowd is expected as advocates and parents weigh in on the plans of your Republican heroes. Expect a good show today. More details in the show notes. Those same Republican heroes are also monkey-wrenching things for our college kids, as we've talked extensively about. Jessica Priest at the Texas Tribune writes on Texas's new Office of the Ombudsman, which is tasked with investigating our public universities who are targeted with complaints that they may have failed to comply with new state laws on DEI and curriculum. Priest finds that office is currently operating without any specific written investigative policies. The office is headed up by Abbott appointee Brandon Simmons and has the authority to recommend the cutting of state funding for schools it finds out of compliance, all without any clear procedures on how their investigations are to be conducted or any specific standards of proof to provide the criteria for launching a particular investigation, nor any developed appeals process. Very much the open-ended kind of oversight authority primed for abuse and the pursuit of personal agendas. Perhaps by design, all of this ambiguity around the enforcement of new culture war guardrails around college instruction in Texas has created an intimidating environment for faculty and institutions and has already resulted in overcorrection of university policies by administrators desperate to avoid liability without clear guidelines on how to do so. From Brandon Simmons on down the staff, the Office of the Ombudsman is largely built of figures known for their work in conservative legal circles. This is basically a right-wing Gestapo that now lords over public universities in Texas, free to exert their will upon every college professor who teaches at them. It's not hard to understand why so many of those professors are now looking for work elsewhere. We look forward to seeing you today at the wonderful Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center in Austin, as Progress Texas is proud to be the media partner of the Texas Nature and Clean Energy Summit, hosted by our friends at Environment Texas, starting this morning at 8:30. We'll hear from an esteemed group of leaders, including State Rep Aaron Zwiener, Dr. Michael Weber of UT Austin, Cyrus Reed of the Sierra Club's Lone Star chapter, Andy Sansom, longtime Executive Director of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, Stacy Ortego of the National Wildlife Federation, and many more. Not too late to RSVP. See the show notes to get that done. And do note, dear listener, that there are not one but two Texas elections approaching soon. Municipal city level elections are on May 2nd, and the statewide primary runoffs are on May 26th. The early voting in municipal elections starts on April 20th, 2 weeks from yesterday. And for the midterm runoffs, your registration deadline is April 27th, 3 weeks from yesterday. Early voting begins in the runoffs on May 18th. More on all of that at our carefully crafted voting information website. You'll find it govotexas.org. Head to our primary website at progresstexas.org to snag the merch to match your values at our web store. It is live and ready for you right now with newly released Humans Against Abbott, Y'all Means All, and Revolution shirts, stickers, and buttons. Hit the web store at progresstexas.org to support your favorite podcast today. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. Links to all of these original stories can be found in our show notes. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared, bold, progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media in action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, and we'll catch you again right here tomorrow morning.